Hi, it's Keith Townsend from the CTOadvisor.com with another Periscope coffee chat. I'm back from delivering the keynotes at both the Aussie both the Aussie VMUG events. Had a great time. One of the keynotes was on hyper-converged infrastructure. As a result of that keynote, the register picked up one of my comments on cost. We won't get into cost, but another comment that they picked up on was around scale up versus scale out. I was talking about the advantages of HCI, hyper-converged infrastructure, versus traditional infrastructure. So whether it's converged infrastructure or bring your own kind of hyper-converged infrastructure environments, what's the advantages of HCI over traditional infrastructure? Also talked about the disadvantages. One of the disadvantages I noted was scale out versus scale up. Hyper-converged infrastructures, more or less, scale out. One of the Simplicity spokespersons were there, and they kind of, or attempted to correct me, and I've gotten this feedback quite a bit, that that when you say hyper-converged solutions, traditionally from those companies such as Nutanix, Simplicity, Scale, don't scale up, but they rather scale out, that's FUD, and that's thinking circa 2012 was one of the comments on the register post. I'm here to dispel that it's not FUD. The solutions don't scale out. The hyper-converged solutions typically don't scale up, they scale out. One of the ways that they fix the scale out limitations for hyper-converged is to separate compute and storage nodes. So what does that mean? It means that you can buy a base solution, let's say a 3-node solution with both compute and storage. You get to the point where you need more storage. You can buy a storage only solution, add that to your, or a storage only module, add that to your cluster, expand the storage nodes out to 4 clusters versus 3, and you still only have 3 compute nodes. What does that practically look like? That means that the 4th node doesn't have hypervisor software on there. It's just bare metal storage that expands out the storage cluster, and you add more storage to your capability. So you've scaled out the storage array from a storage only perspective. And then the other option exists too. Let's say that you don't need more storage and you need more compute. Well, you can add another hypervisor node to scale the solution out to add more hypervisor solution. So those are still examples of scaling out, not necessarily scaling up. Scaling up means that, give you an example use case. Let's say that your average VM workload has increased the memory footprint. So let's say before, when you first rolled out the solution, the average solution used your average VM used 16 gig of RAM. Now your average solution is up to, let's say, 32 gig of RAM, your average VM. So vMotioning memory footprint of a single node. So I need to scale up each node in my environment. Adding a compute node to a cluster doesn't solve that problem. It allows me to run more VMs, thus scaling out, but it doesn't allow me to scale up the average VM workload. So I'm sticking by my comment. Sorry the folks at Simplicity. Your solution is awesome. It's a great solution, but it's a scale out solution. The architecture, and this is one of those things that, is a pet peeve of mine when it comes to vendors and their marketing teams and their architectures. The architectures are architectures. This isn't a diss on ACI, on HCI. The architecture is the architecture. If it's scale out, it's scale out. Some of the limitations of scale out is that if you want to individually scale a portion of it, you're limited. They solved that problem in 2012 by giving us the option to do single nodes, such as single compute or single storage nodes. That doesn't make it a scale up solution. You're still scaling out. That also means that when I want to quickly deploy a solution, If I want it to scale up, I still got to open up each box, pop more memory into it, take memory out, pop more disk into it. It takes time. Adding a node is much quicker, and that's the advantage of scale out. So, you know, the architecture is the architecture. I'd love to hear feedback on the Twitter. I'm obviously not watching the Periscope stream as I'm recording, but this was a really fun topic. I love, whenever I talk about ACI, I know I get a bunch of reactions from the vendors, a lot of great conversation, and a lot of reaction from customers. I hope this is an exception. Talk to you guys on the Twitter.